Question comes on the acceptance of the consolidated amendment. The chair recognizes Representative Cataldo of Concord.
Mr. Speaker, and through you to the members, I rise in favor of the consolidated amendment and to speak in favor of the portion of the amendment directing the closure of MCI-Concord. Mr. Speaker, thank you for your encouragement to take an active role on this issue that is so important to my district. Thank you for giving me that confidence. I needed it, and I appreciate it. To the gentleman from the North End, the level of time and attention to detail that you and your incredible staff have paid to this particular issue in the context of so many other issues from January up until late last night is beyond the pale. So to the support that you've given me and the gentleman from Sudbury on this, thank you. And Mr. Speaker, I beg your indulgence for two acknowledgments not directly related to the language of the amendment, but preconditional to my work on it. To the residents of Acton, Carlisle, Chelmsford, and Concord who entrust me to work on their behalf in this august body, I am profoundly grateful. And to my wife, Chessie, our three little boys, my sisters, my dad, and my mom, may her memory be a blessing. I love you. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we're talking about closing MCI-Concord today because of the work that you and so many others have done over the last 2+ decades to usher in an era of landmark and, in many cases, bipartisan criminal justice reform. Chair Day just mentioned many of the reasons why we've seen a 34% decrease in the number of incarcerated persons in Massachusetts since just 2018, a 40% decrease at MCI-Concord, and the lowest recidivism rate that we've had in Massachusetts since the DOC started tracking that figure in 1995. These results, Mr. Speaker, are not anomalies. They are direct outcomes from efforts from the members of this House, you and many others, to enable diversion for minor offenses, to promote practices of restorative justice in district attorneys' offices in courts that are supported by law enforcement and victim advocates, to adhere our bail, probation, and parole rules to principles of public safety rather than irrelevant indicators like the ability to pay, to marry the science of juvenile development to the practice of juvenile justice, and to limit the rate of false positive convictions that we all know fall disproportionately on those who are least powerful among us. Mr. Speaker, as a former federal prosecutor who helped run drug and mental health courts in Washington, D.C., and as a former special educator in Harlem Public Schools, I have long shared the belief with so many members of this chamber that these practices are not only prudent but are backed by competent evidence. But you, Mr. Speaker, and the members of this House have done more than preach and study about these practices. You have enshrined them into the Massachusetts general laws, and that's why we're talking today about closing a 150-year-old major correctional facility in the Commonwealth and in my hometown. Mr. Speaker, I want to honor the fact that for many members of this chamber, MCI-Concord bears personal significance. You know, Mr. Speaker, that there are several current members who regularly drive to Concord, go inside that facility, walk those corridors, hear their names called out from behind bars, look beyond those bars, and see the faces of people that they grew up with, and serve as, in many cases, the sole lifeline for those people to the outside world, and that for them, this is complicated. But I'm committed to working with you, Mr. Speaker, the members of this House and the DOC to ensure that this transition is both orderly and just for inmates and staff alike. Mr. Speaker, this is also a special issue, a unique issue for the many community members and community organizations in and around my district who have worked behind those walls on behalf of the prisoner population for years. They include, but are not limited to, Concord Prison Outreach, Communities for Restorative Justice, the Discovery Museum in Acton, many faith-led groups, and the Tuppet program at Tufts University. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Corrections has made a commitment to ensure that those assets remain bright lights in our correctional facilities across the Commonwealth, and it is vital that we ensure that they stay true to that commitment. Mr. Speaker, one thing is clear: the state and the taxpayers are going to save a lot of money, as the gentleman from Springfield just mentioned, from the closure of this facility. If it goes through $15 million in year one, I've heard as much as $200 million in the years to come from the avoidance of deferred capital maintenance. But beyond the immediate fiscal savings, there is abundant opportunity for the state and my district in this parcel. MCI-Concord sits on 51 acres between two beautiful rivers. It abuts Route 2. It backs up to West Concord Village. It is less than half a mile from the commuter rail that I and so many others in my community take to work. On this parcel, because of its size and location, we can finally fix the dreaded, unsafe, and traffic-inducing Route 2 rotary that plagues, thank you, that plagues commuters from Leominster and Fitchburg to Boston and back. We can build an overpass, we can create jobs, we can generate tax revenue, we can advance the policies of smart growth that this House has supported for many, many years. But in order to do all that, we have to be smart, and that is why, Mr. Speaker, the gentleman from the North End, his incredible staff, and many others have had their hand on the pen of this language to create an innovative precedent in a collaborative framework to pursue a shared vision. We know, Mr. Speaker, that this is no time to assume, and in fact, it will be naive to assume, that the state and local organizations and municipalities will all play nicely in the sandbox on a valuable piece of land. And that is why this language is born out of an open dialogue with many different stakeholders at different levels of government and the community. It mandates, Mr. Speaker, a study and report of the best uses of the property. It requires agency from the town of Concord, the business community, river ecosystem experts, and others. It maintains the maximum amount of dexterity in both decision-making and outcomes. This sets us up for success fiscally and otherwise. Mr. Speaker, today is a full circle moment for my hometown. In 1878, the town of Concord petitioned this legislature to move the Charlestown jail from Charlestown to West Concord. This amendment positions all of us to do right by the legacy of this facility, to usher in a new era of economic opportunity and prosperity for the region, and to serve the best interests of the state and my district. Mr. Speaker, with the utmost respect and humility, I urge the members to vote in favor of the consolidated amendment. Thank you.
The chair would like to congratulate the representative on his inaugural speech.
Open the roll call while they're congratulating.